So it's now been 2 years since the Deep Dive podcast first aired. I was amazed how many previous guests were wanting to come back for the second anniversary special. At the time of the podcast will be released, I will be on my way to the Yellow Ladybugs conference in Melbourne. So I'm very excited to be finally catching up with a lot of you in person. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we?
Looking for authentic conversations that go beneath the surface? Tune in now to the Deep Dive podcast. Visit us at www.deepdiveau.net. That's deepdiveau.net. And follow us across your favorite platforms: YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Facebook. Just search at the Deep Dive AU. Join us as we dive deep into stories of neurodivergence, lived experience, and creating a more inclusive world. The Deep Dive Podcast. Conversations that matter. Stories that connect.
This is the Deep Dive Podcast. And here is your host, Michael Coles.
So we asked the previous guests 4 questions. The first question we asked was, how has the episode benefited you since it got released?
Yeah, what a great opportunity that was. And I actually had a quick look on YouTube just before we recorded here, and it's got, I think, over 1,000 views. So, I mean, the benefit is I've had 1,000 people see what I do, and I'm really grateful for that. And I'm sure I've had people, contacting me or following me on LinkedIn or Instagram because of that episode. So, yeah, thank you so much for that.
A lot, to be honest. This year has been all about refining, really keeping things exactly on track for what we want to achieve at the Growth Manager, and a lot of traveling for me for both personal and professional things, but keeping with our foundations and moving on to momentum with it.
Yeah, it has been a little while, and I have had people come to me and say that they, heard me speak on the Deep Dive podcast, and that's why they're reaching out to me, or people who've, come up to me in other community settings and mentioned the Deep Dive podcast. So that's probably, the biggest impact that it's had is, I guess, sharing our voice more broadly with people.
Lots of things. I've been in a moon boot is my personal update from running too much, ironically, with my ADHD. I fixated on that too hard, unfortunately. I've still been doing client work. I've released a webinar for teachers a couple months ago. And then last week or the week before, I just released an ebook for teachers, which is very exciting because that was my first one. So super keen and happy it's out in the universe, finally.
It's been a big year. I've now got regular clients, which is amazing, who I see one-on-one as a nutritionist. I've done a couple of public speaking gigs, and I've just started running a course for parents of selective eaters. So I feel like I'm finally finding, what I'm meant to be doing in the world.
I think just a little bit more exposure, which is a really wonderful thing, which I'm very grateful for, but also the connection with you, getting to know a fellow neurokin person and understanding you and I have some similarities and similar interests, of course, which I don't need to go into, but I think just that building of connections with neurokin has really kicked off since being on the pod.
Yeah. So I would have to say it would be the connections that came from it. For me personally, I had a lot of people reach out who really resonated with parts of my story, and it was like particularly around navigating health challenges and the resilience that I had, and just the delay in the late diagnosis and what that meant. And like how that's reshaped my perspective in general. And so a lot of those conversations have been really meaningful and interesting, and it opened the door to a lot of resources in that space as well, especially with neurodivergent and disabled communities. So there's a lot of connections I made from that. And that's helped me personally. And then I've shared that on within my own circles as well. I'd say it's just created like a really strong sense of connection and community and understanding that I didn't really fully expect, but I've really valued.
I was. It's always such a pleasure to talk to someone who also has a disability. And I particularly like talking to someone like yourself, Michael, because we have different disabilities. So we're able to use a different perspective on how we view the world and how we interact with the world and how inaccessible the world is for both of us. And I think that contrast and comparing can be really helpful. And I also just enjoy talking to you and learning from other people.
I was telling you quite a lot, actually. One of those things is personally, I've gone through my own diagnosis of autism ADHD, which has been quite life-changing, and then seeing it a lot more in my clients. And then I wrote a book, and that's come out. So that's been a lot of work, but it's also very exciting to help neurodivergent folk and all humans find love and date.
Yeah, and that's been really successful in terms of like, the publicity for it. It's been amazing.
I've been really blessed. It just means that people are very interested. I think a lot of us find dating and love and relationships really hard. And I think that bit about being a psychologist who said, I found this really hard. It helps people kind of feel less alone, less ashamed.
Yeah, geez. Mostly I continue to work in the burnout space, but really honing in and working with midlife women, which often involves a lot of neurodivergent women who might be just coming to realize that they are as well. And also working a lot in how perimenopause certainly coincides with, particularly for the neurodivergent folk as well. And so I've been mainly in the business world focusing on that and creating spaces to provide that connection and compassionate support that they need and crave. And also just personally myself continuing to ride the wave of perimenopause and learning to accommodate and support and be kind to myself in that process.
Such a good question. And, I was thinking about this just this morning. The Deep Dive podcast was only the second ever podcast that I did. So I think that for me, it was almost finding out that I could actually do it, that I could know that we were recording, that others would be listening to it, and that I could still speak my truth and just show up and, share like I would if I was chatting with a friend.
I just so appreciated our conversation, talking with others in the neuroinclusion space and the advocacy space just makes it feel less lonely. And I've been able to be a part of other programs as well since then, but it just really tipped off something that felt like wholesome and nurturing to me too. I mean, we get to share a lot of tips and practices, but for me personally, it was just very wholesome and supportive. So I want to thank you.
Well, I've kept on doing music. I performed at a local music festival in my town. I've been trying to get more gigs and things, but as a solo individual performer, it's been a little tough. So I've been starting a band. But one of the biggest things that I've done is I've released my own album. I recorded an album at home. I've got it here. My album, under my roof. So that was my baby that I was working on. I think when I spoke to you last year, I said that I was wanting to work on an album. It was in the works. So it's really wonderful to talk to you now, knowing that that's come full circle since speaking to you. So yeah, that's been really exciting. That's really been the biggest thing that's happened in the last year.
Yeah, it was a while ago now. It was really great just to, get the chance to talk about my story, my business, which was like really new at that time. Like I think I'd just gone into being a personal trainer and everything like that. So that was really new and just like reach new people and tell my story and connect with people.
I think the most benefit I got was connecting with you and getting to know you. And the second benefit was connecting with wonderful humans in the community who listened to your podcast and reached out afterwards saying that they've met me through your episode. So thank you for that.
I think I've had more confidence to start speaking up more. I know when we very first recorded, it was around the time I felt more confidence in doing advocacy work. And I've definitely noticed more people speaking up about things as well. So it's been really exciting to see more voices joining the conversation, more neuroaffirming practitioners wanting to do the right thing by Neurokin, and yeah, just building my own confidence and speaking out.
The second question we asked is, what is your biggest achievements since your episode aired?
It's probably the ebook that I just mentioned, about how to support students back into the routine of school, either at the start of term or the start of the year. I put lots of heart and soul into it to make sure teachers had really good, clear strategies that they can implement straight away for the whole classroom, because the system isn't designed to support teachers enough with time management and that type of thing, with really big expectations on them that they don't have capacity for.
In years and years and years since my accident, which was very exciting and very popular. And then two, I just did an analysis because it was a end of a quarter, and I have been able to reduce our annual expenses by 38%, which, a business my size, it's nice to always be aware of what our profits are and our expenses are and really monitor that. So it's definitely a focus, which has been great.
Oh, a lot. Yeah. I now have my business has just started making a profit each month, which is a big achievement after 5 years of persistence. And I also did 2 public speaking gigs, which I was really honored to be asked to present. So one was presenting basically on my life story with ARFID, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. And that was presented to parents and to health professionals as well. And then just last month, I did another talk presenting ARFID again, but more how I help others, including a case study from my own clinic. And that was presented to allied health professionals. And that was just really great to get this awareness out there.
So since then, I've finished my career development and career counselling graduate certificate and I've become a registered career development practitioner and a career counsellor. I'm registered with the Career Industry Council of Australia on their registry on their website. I'm registered with CDAA, so I'm officially a career counsellor. I've been working as a career counsellor with lots of amazing clients since that episode aired, and yeah, really loving the job, loving how I can help people with employment and career.
Hey, so I guess when I'm thinking about it, I've recently published a paper that I've been wanting to publish for the last 2 years, really, but it's kicked off. So that's probably the biggest one, I reckon.
So there's been a couple of big milestones. The main one I would say would be my husband and I finished building our house. It's our first home, and we moved in just before Christmas, which was really special. We designed it with my disability in mind, and now that I've had some health problems recently, it's made a really big difference having a space that actually supports my needs. So that's been major. The other thing was that I also shared my story publicly at my workplace as a part of International Day of People with Disabilities. So I previously disclosed my health and neurodivergence challenges to my managers, but not broadly to everybody. And there's always a little bit of concern or nerves around how that's going to be received. But the response was overwhelmingly positive, and it led to a lot of really meaningful conversations there as well, and connections with people who had similar experiences, as well as a huge outpouring of support when I got sick. And on a personal level, just navigating a really intense period of illness and continuing to show up and move forward through that. That's been a huge achievement in itself.
Oh, I've been a very busy bee. My podcast, the I Can't Stand podcast, is now well over 200 episodes. I'm really proud of the quality of work that I've been able to produce, and make sure that I have a wide range of perspectives. As we know, disability can affect anyone and everyone, so I try and make sure I have a wide breadth of representation of not only disabilities, but also the different minorities disability can be part of. So that's always a working goal for me. And look, to be honest, I'm also really pleased with how well my social media has gone on. I am sharing more of my daily life, and it turns out people really enjoy just watching me every day on Instagram.
Well, I think personally, understanding myself, I would call that an achievement, just being kinder to myself, more compassionate, more forgiving, more okay with who I am. And yeah, writing a book is a huge process. And so it's just really nice that that's out in the world. And it means then that the message is getting out there. So I've run another women's group. So we all get a bunch of women together who are struggling with love and relationships. And that's beautiful. It's so connecting and healing for everyone.
Yeah, so I think that perhaps my biggest achievement has been being invited to speak at the Yellow Ladybugs conference. And I've been invited to speak on the topic of breaking generational cycles as parents of neurodivergent children, which is a super powerful, important topic that I think we don't talk about nearly enough. I've also supported Charlie through a change of school, recovery from burnout, and seeing him generally just flourish in an environment that's really well suited to him. So that's been a really incredible achievement for both of us, for our whole family, really. And I have this year launched a toolkit specifically for supporting children with a PDA profile in the school environment, which is something that I've been passionate about for a long time, and I've been pulling together resources, all of the good things that I could find, and finally pulled it all together and sort of linked it in and created a whole process that can be followed to support schools to support their kids with a PDA profile. So that's been really exciting as my first ever kind of like product launch.
I feel like a lot has happened actually since then. We've probably done a lot more conferences and public speaking and training and things like that, which is really important for me, because I feel like that's the best way that we can help contribute to the shift to neurodiversity affirming practice more broadly. So probably just getting a bit more confidence in sharing our voice, I guess, more broadly.
A lot's been happening. I'd like to share 3 things, if that's okay, if I highlight a few things. The first is that I've revised my neuroinclusion design brief that we use internally to design training that now beyond executive function challenges includes sensory sensitivities and learning differences like dyslexia and design. And from this foundation, I've built new and improved design checklists for courses and events that interleave WCAG standards as well. And those resources I'm parlaying into courses so that I can share those with others. So that's a big one. A second one is I've started a Norms Are Not Neutral blog series. And this is helping us examine day-to-day norms that are barriers for neurodivergent folks, because, it's really important to make the unseen seen so that we can address what's actually happening in social structures, because we can change and tweak all of the environment sensory things, and still there are really significant barriers in place unless we're looking at communication and social norms and all of the unwritten rules, right, in the workplace and other places. And so the first one is about volunteering and being included in stakeholder leadership structures. And the second one is focusing on communication, the double empathy problem, and the fact that there are mutual responsibilities to meet in the middle to make communication work. The last thing that I'll mention really briefly is that I've completed my disability rights and accessibility consultant certification. And so I'm really excited to bring this neuroinclusion work to organizations and operations beyond workforce development, which has been my passion from the start, but I'm excited to continue expanding on this work.
Yeah. I would say the album and the music festival. Yeah, being able to be featured on that music festival stage last year with my own set. I'd previously been there as part of their All Abilities section, and then they gave me my own set in October last year. I also spoke at the Aruma Human Rights annual conference. I was able to be part of their Human Rights Action Committee, and yeah, they invited me to speak at their conference. So I was able to speak and sing at their conference. And that was an incredible opportunity to speak to people who are on the same page. I mean, I think you'd understand that when you're doing a lot of work at your desk in your house, being able to then get into a room with people is really encouraging to be able to have those natural conversations. So getting that feedback from people who heard me speak and were really encouraged by it was, yeah, really wonderful.
Probably growing my business. It's been like, I don't know, a year and a half now. So growing the Hypermobile PT, and then I'm actually also launching a new like online offer in on 19th of May, which is called the Hypermobile Hub, which is basically like an all-in-one online training membership designed for people with hypermobility. So that's what I'm working on at the moment, and that's only a few weeks away, so that's really exciting.
So when I joined your episode a year ago, we had the first version of Understanding Zoe out in the world. And I think the most relevant achievement since is having a new version that is now expanding to neurodivergent folks who are adults, not just those who are under the care of parents. So not just for children, but also servicing adults. So that I think is one of the most biggest achievement. Another one is the research that we've published in November 2025, Making the Invisible Visible, which is all about showing the invisible.
Ooh, I feel like the neurodivergent entrepreneurs community on school and watching us just grow and flourish on there. I know we've hit just over 100 members and we've started our first cohort for our 12-month support, and it has been very exciting. And I feel like that's probably the biggest so far.
The third question we asked all our guests is, what is your favorite episode of the Deep Dive podcast?
I think a recent favorite was your interview with Jessica Otter. I loved hearing her speak in terms of she's just a beautiful human, but also hearing her lived experience as a parent, heavily involved in the disability community and space, and just hearing more lived experience from her was really, really beautiful from just a personal perspective and also from a clinician perspective as well.
It has. It has. I love the one I picked last year, but I have to admit, I really, really love the one you did with Siobhan Wilson. I have met her in person, and I think she's just such a fabulous next generation human being who is making a real change in her community, and how she advocates for, all different kinds of young entrepreneurs, young, neurodivergent individuals, and just really incredible people trying to achieve great things. It really inspired me and kept me wanting to do what I do.
Yes, there's a new one. I really liked Tara Harnwell Jones' episode From Meltdowns to Meaning. I could just relate to a lot of the experiences she was describing with her child. And, meltdowns is still something I experience and I probably don't talk about enough. And I think it's really great that she was able to design a product that can help with communication when it becomes difficult for us, and one that was kind of more, I guess, age appropriate and user friendly for her child.
I don't like to choose favorite people because I think everyone's been so informative and, have been giving so many good tips and information. I would say, I don't really want to choose, but I do have alignment with Adina, who is doing a lot of good work with what she does, and she does give a lot of great tips and a lot of great content. So yeah, I'm appreciative of her episode and everything that she does.
So it's going to be probably throwing it back, but I've got two. I really loved the one with Adina, where she was talking about creating more systems and processes online for, I guess, entrepreneurs and business people, and Sarah Middleton from Brilliant Little Gems. Both of those are probably some of my favorites, I'd say.
Well, of course, you're always going to have more, right, Michael? So I can always have another favorite. But my current favorite is Annie Crow. She is an amazing disability advocate who is also neurodivergent. And because I don't have neurodivergency, I always find it really helpful to speak to people who have that lived experience so I can get a better understanding, not only to improve my work and making sure that I make people feel comfortable, but also for me to understand what accessibility is for different people. And yeah, I just found it really helpful.
Well, I was listening to one of yours actually, and I think what's so beautiful about that is, am I doing this wrong? I was relating to that a lot, and I think a lot of us feel that, we're just kind of sometimes fumbling our way through life and through business, and I think people can really connect with that vulnerability. And then I would say anything about business, because again, that's something I've had to learn. It's not a skill that comes naturally to me.
Mm.
So they have been incredibly helpful. There's one with Sian Fitzgerald.
Mm.
That was fabulous, just reminding us that there are systems and processes that help.
Mm.
Yeah, good question. I I think the favorite episode would have to be the one that we recorded the panel discussion about education, because it was such a joy to be there in conversation with these incredible other women who are so passionate and knowledgeable about how we can make education more inclusive for our kids. So that just felt like a real honor to be there in real time, having the conversation and listening to them.
I actually have a couple that I couldn't choose from. One was the one about intimacy and relationships with Lil DeSille. I just thought that they spoke so, what's the word? Like fluently and gently, but also with such power about that topic. And then also Jessica Otter's episode that she did sharing about like community and the importance of that. And so those are the two that have really stood out for me so far on the Deep Dive podcast that I've sort of kept coming back to in my mind,
I really enjoy listening to Catherine Lee talk about neuroinclusion in workplaces. I really resonated with a lot of things that she said, especially about how duty of care applies to all workers, not just those who disclose a disability, to try to make up for a gap and decide if their requests are reasonable. Loved how she talked about how it's important to realize that most neurodivergent people haven't been identified or diagnosed, and still struggle. They still mask. And so it's our responsibility to provide spaces and places that are supportive for everyone.
Okay.
It has. I think when I last spoke to you, I really loved Kitty's episode. And then you had one of, I think it was Lita's Tap Styles, where it is with like dancing, neurodivergent dancing. And I really, really loved that because they were talking about particularly tap dancing as stimming and how like that repetitive movement is really, really helpful. And I find that playing guitar, if I'm having a stressful day, playing guitar, this movement is sort of a stim for me anyway. So I love it when people are finding ways of incorporating art and creativity into the way we as autistic people sort of need to operate anyway. So I found really fascinating.
I mean, I'm definitely a little biased towards mine, of course, because, it was great to get to share my story and my work. But, I know you did one with Megan Wood recently, so I really liked that one because she's really great. So maybe that one.
So as you know, Michael, I had a burnout 12 years ago, an autistic burnout. So I really loved the episode about burnout by...
After you sent me the questions for this, I actually went back through all the episodes trying to pick a favorite, and I couldn't pick just one. So I actually think the favorite thing about how you do the podcast, Michael, is how you clip together shorts or reels as well as the episodes, because my brain doesn't always do well at paying attention for long periods of time. So if I can't focus on a whole episode, I love that you give me the option for shorts and reels. And the most recent example I can think of is the National Assistance Card, and how I've actually seen other people in my clinical life having an application put in for it. So, yeah.
And the last question we asked was, what are your future plans and aspirations?
Plans for neuronurture. I have a lot going on behind the scenes. It's very ADHD of me. I'm working on starting a creative and nature play therapy group locally. I'm going to be releasing some other webinars as well that are in the works and continue doing trainings with schools and preschools to help support them with supporting their neurodivergent kids.
Well, it's been a bit of an interesting year for me and many other business owners, but right now we're still moving forward with my focus of scaling my impact and really focusing on increasing the profit of the business while being really strategic in growing my mentoring while really being as practical as possible of a support for business owners, whether they can work directly with me or not. So I'm really wanting to keep leaning into the different ways that we work with mentees and really supporting them at every stage of their business.
Oh, that's a big one. Personally, I just like to not find the perfect balance, but just get the balance a bit more sorted out in my life. Last month was a really big month, and I'm really feeling quite fatigued at the moment. So just trying to make sure I'm allowing myself to rest and I guess like future-proofing my plans and adding in a bit more rest. My partner and I are actually going on our first real trip together without our families. So we're going to Carnarvon Gorge, which is like 8 hours inland. So I'm really excited to just unplug and be offline and have quite low demands apart from hiking, which I quite enjoy. And professionally, I just love to reach more clients and families, particularly in the ARFID space. I'm really enjoying running this course for parents at the moment. And I just know there's more families out there that I could help. So I want to potentially repackage these lessons into a way that people can buy them on demand when they need them, and work their way through the lessons at their own pace as well. Because I just don't want kids to have to struggle with their eating, or feel judged for how they're eating, and for parents to not know how to help their kids.
Oh, that's a great question. I would like to continue to work as a career counselor. I think, especially with neurodivergent clients, this is an area of work that I enjoy, and I'm very committed to helping people in the workplace because there's a lot of barriers, and sometimes it's not getting easier for people to find the right employment, to get the right accommodations that they need, and to help them through the whole employment process. That for me is very important. With the high unemployment rate for autistic individuals in Australia and indeed worldwide, this will always remain a very important part of my life to help people with their career exploration and for the successful attainment of workplace roles.
Business aspirations, I would like to create some more community webinars or programs to support NeuroKin, ideally. And I would like to start also incorporating Auslan as part of, I guess, more accessibility with my clients to help them with different forms of communication. And in my personal life, more respite, so less burnout, being able to cook for myself, and going out to my creek walks more regularly, I'd say.
Right now, my main focus is to get onto the NDIS so I can be better supported in my day-to-day life, and manage my health more sustainably. It's been a really big impact emotionally, physically, and financially. And so having that support would be enormously helpful to me and my family. And also, Chris and I are heading off to a 6-week trip to Europe from May. We've been planning that for over a year. And even though that's going to look a little different now with all of my added medical support, I'm absolutely not missing out on it. And you're going to see me having an Aperol Spritz in Italy.
It's such a big question. I want to continue on with the podcast, of course. I really value the disability community and I love how connected we can be now. So I hope to have more people on the podcast and increase my reach on social media and hopefully release another brand when that's ready?
Well, I actually think it's to work less. I've taken on a few new projects, which have been great. I'm teaching at a uni, so some counseling subjects, but I also think I'm still finding that balance of work and rest. So I would like to figure that out.
Oh my goodness, keep talking about the things that I'm really passionate about. So, talking about parenting and looking after ourselves, particularly as mothers of neurodivergent children, and working to support the professionals who are supporting our children. So, allied health professionals and teachers, and helping to continue to grow awareness and understanding, especially around the experiences and needs of kids with a PDA profile.
Ooh, I'm always not so great with the future aspirations. I'm more in the moment. But I think it's just continue to work in the areas that I'm very interested in, which is midlife. It is in the women's space, and it's continuing to help people, with living a life that is, not one of survival, but hopefully one of sustainability, but just helping be that where I can, as a psychologist, be a support in that. So I think it's continuing in that space, and I've got lots of little different ways that I do that. But yeah, it's just staying in the space and staying sane and healthy myself.
Well, I'm actually on a bit of a mission to have more intentional rest and try to sort of decolonize my time use a little bit. I'm trying to be very, very intentional with the things that I do, the things that we commit our time to, and invest energy in. I guess it's a process of being more mindful in how we move through our life. So that's probably on the personal front what our focus is at the moment. Professionally, I think it's about balancing how we can continue to show up for our community, to represent, those who have our shared lived experience, but also be part of platforming, those who maybe don't get the opportunities to share. And looking at how we walk that line really delicately, recognizing, our privilege within this space, and ensuring that we're doing our due diligence to all people, I guess. So professionally, that's probably what we're thinking a lot about.
Well, I definitely am continuing to speak about and train around neuroinclusion. Planning to release a learning pathway of courses around neuroinclusion that will demonstrate neuroinclusion as part of the design, and really continue to advocate for the unseen barriers and needs, and just really trying to cultivate a conversation around co-creating inclusion for everyone. I would say professionally, I really want to get my band off the ground, working on getting some people together and getting practices going, because I really want to do more with my music. I've been doing a couple of gigs with Aruma, the place that supports me with my disability support. They've been allowing me to use their venues to perform, and but I'd really like to get into more just regular venues to provide my music, so I can bring that out there. So that's a huge one. And also, I'm studying a diploma of clinical coding, which isn't really my music side of things, but it still is very much helpful to the health department, which is something that I'm very passionate about. So that's sort of my personal thing that I'm working on.
Personally, I don't know. I don't have any personal goals at the moment. I feel like all I'm focusing on is business. But getting the Hypermobile Hub launched on the 19th and just like building that into this really great space for hypermobile people to like trade accessibly and safely, I guess, is my really big goal and aspiration at the moment.
I love this question, Michael. What such a big question. I think personally it would be to make more space for connection with nature. I think lately I haven't been enough out in the wild. So personally, I would like to make more space for connection with nature, with my family, going all together on a hike, a bushwalk and so on. I haven't done that in a few in a few weeks and I miss it. So doing that more regularly on a professional level, really making sure that everything that I do for the community is contributing to healing and greater understanding and not creating harm. So making sure that all of the biases we correct within our AI, all of the way we build our app, all the work we do is truly helping for a greater understanding and support.
Oh, good question. How long have we got? No. I am so excited to watch the ND entrepreneurs community continue to grow and evolve and just be this incredible safe space for neurokin. I want to see more incredible ND folk do amazing things that only they can do, and to feel confident in doing it by understanding how their brain works and embracing that, rather than feeling like they need to fit a certain box.
Okay, so you've had a few health issues of late, and this has affected you on a personal level. Can you tell us actually exactly what happened? I know you've been sharing your story fairly sort of broadly on your socials.
Yeah, so I'll try and condense it. It's a lot, and more than happy to go into more detail outside if anyone has some questions. But essentially, I've got hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I've had that my whole life, but was only formally diagnosed in 2024 after a long time of misdiagnosis. And unfortunately, that late diagnosis had a cascade effect across multiple body systems, particularly my GI and autonomic systems. So towards the end of last year, I got really unwell and I lost over 30% of my body weight, including muscle mass. And that was from malnutrition due to malabsorption. It was eventually discovered that I have multiple vascular compression syndromes, including one of them that severely compresses part of my small intestine. And that's been a key driver for a lot of my GI issues because it prevents food from moving through and led to gut dysbiosis and a range of other flow-on complications which impact how my body absorbs and processes nutrients. Further testing then revealed significant pelvic organ prolapse and a telescoping bowel, and that caused mechanical bowel obstructions. So what's important there is that I was experiencing serious pain and difficulty with my bowels for over a decade, and it had been dismissed and brushed off as IBS or just constipation. But the real problem hadn't been picked up earlier on scans because they were standard static imaging done lying down, and it was only identified through dynamic imaging, which looks at how the body functions in different positions and in real time. So that highlighted to me how important it is that unless you're asking the right questions, you're not always going to get the answer you're looking for. So only a week and a little bit ago, I had major bowel surgery, and that issue with my telescoping bowel has now been corrected and restored normal function. And I'm feeling a lot better than what we thought I would by this point. So that's been really good. And the hope that is that surgery will relieve some of the other issues over time, but it's not necessarily a permanent fix, and I'll still require ongoing management and therapies for the other conditions. And at the moment, I'm being supported with a PICC line, so I've got that in my arm for daily fluids to help manage my blood pressure, and also a feeding tube on my face here, which is a nasojejunal feeding tube, and that's helping to support my nutritional intake while I recover and work around those malabsorption issues. And there's no cure for these conditions, so it's just about managing my quality of life and preventing any further decline. It's just continued to highlight to me how important resilience and self-advocacy are, and to continue to adapt to things that you can't control. And as you mentioned, I've been creating and sharing mini vlogs on my socials about my journey, just to give a bit of a glimpse into my day-to-day life. And that has sparked some really important conversations, and I hope has helped people understand my reality a little better, for those who may not have been aware before, or maybe now that it's visible, rather than just being invisible, it's really highlighted what I've been dealing with behind the scenes. And I'm thinking it's working because I've had some great engagement. So yeah, that's the main nutshell of an update. It's a lot to go through.
Thank you so much for being part of the Deep Dive Podcast second anniversary special.
Congratulations on the anniversary.
No worries. Thank you for having me, and congratulations. It's been great to watch you guys continue to grow.
Thank you.
Congratulations again. Yay!
You're welcome. Such a pleasure. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you for having me, and glad to be part of the celebration.
No worries at all, Michael. Thank you so much for having me, and best of luck with it going forward.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Congratulations for keeping on going. You're doing great work.
Thank you for having me. It's been great to talk to you again.
Thank you so much, Michael, for having me, and happy anniversary, 2 years of podcasting.
I'm so excited to be here, and congratulations, Michael, on making 2 years of podcasting material and keeping the deep dive going. It's been amazing to watch.
Thanks, Michael.
And thank you for coming back again. It's so awesome to have you back on.
Huge pleasure.